Audio. All right, here we go. Hello, anybody who was already here. This is going to be a shorter one because it's already kind of late. Dismiss that. Switch that to live. Make sure both are synced. Yes. That's ready. I don't know if I'm actually going to pull up the Twitter bookmarks. Maybe, maybe not. I'll see. Anyways, I'm going to wait a few seconds for at least a few people to start showing up before I get started talking about anything. There is uh, a bit of actual positive developments and good news outside of the Iran war stuff, some of which is actually happening because of it, but the main portions are have nothing to do with it. So I'll cover that stuff first to give people extra time to show up. But let me drink some water. All right. Uh, that doesn't even register anybody. That takes like a few minutes at least. Okay, so has that been working? Yes. Okay, so start with while waiting for people to show up, we got good news in Libya. Even more stuff, more fields have been repaired and restored and everything, and should be getting brought online soon in the coming months. So initially, it was looking like at the very start of things, it was looking like maybe they'd be able to push 1.5 by the end of the year. Then it started looking like they'd be able to push up to it by like summer and then we'll kind of stay there until next year when more stuff comes on. Now it's actually looking more like they might be able to push up to around 1.6 from the roughly 1.3 or 1.35 that they're at now by the end of the year, most likely actually by the end of summer. So they'll be able to add on 200,000, 250,000 or so. The Iran war has kind of kicked a lot of countries into no longer kind of just sitting around on themselves on their lawn chairs or whatever. Ireland is one of several who have finally like leapt up out of their recliner, stopped drinking Guinness and watching football on TV or whatever, and have jumped up to suddenly granting licenses and permits that had been just kind of sitting there, not really getting approved or anything, just kind of sitting in existence because they wanted to have them there just in case, but didn't want to approve them because they wanted to look green. But now they suddenly have started rapid pace stamping licenses and approvals for various oil and gas exploration and offshore drilling stuff. And also, stuff is out of nowhere to the expectation of actually no one, to the surprise of many, suddenly announced that actually there's going to be stuff offshore of Greenland. The actual collection or production center will probably be based around this area on one of these peninsulas. And the general area under exploration after cut there for Iceland's territory is roughly this batch here offshore. You can't do anything onshore because it's under 2 miles of ice, obviously. But this batch offshore, which is likely to contain a fair bit of stuff, as it does share geology similarities to and in the past bore some connection to, was like kind of pressed against the North Sea plus Norway and Barents Sea area. So that's all of a sudden going to be happening. We got anybody? We got some people here. No one who's actually alive, though. Tunisia has excellent news. So remember, over time, their total national water supply, everything that was in all of their dams combined across the country, has been going down, down, down. Gets replenished during the more rainy months around when what would be winter. They don't really have one, but what would otherwise be winter. And then just continues going down after that. And at the lowest point, they got down to only 18 or 19% remaining of their total national water supply. They recovered from that, dropped a bit, recovered further, and got up to like the lower 30s, dropped back down to the mid 20s. And last last year, they got up to by the end of the year, a few months ago, they were up to about 32%. And over these past few months, they had gotten up to about 35 or 36. However, they got a massive uh, multi-day rain front deluge system that pushed over a week or two ago that did cause a lot of like road and infrastructure damage, but it also dumped so much water across the country into the rivers and reservoirs, and the rivers then run into the reservoirs, that the amount of their total national reservoir system across all their different supplies was surge refilled all the way up to 58% now. Let me make a better five. There we go. That's still kind of deformed, but will live. So they're back up to almost 60% full. And hopefully the upcoming summer won't go too badly, and they'll not lose too much, and they'll get decent rain starting in November again, and actually get decent bits of refill once more. And actually tied to the Iran war for this one, but under the good news category, the pipeline met its expectations and is actually carrying 7 million barrels per day over to the western coast of Saudi Arabia. So it was already, they were already exporting one initially before the war, but now they're going to be exporting 7. So that is a net diversion of 6. So out of the 17 that normally would leave the Persian Gulf through the Strait of Hormuz, the deficit is down into the single digits and actually closer around only like 6 million barrels per day of deficit now, so much less than it was in the beginning. So, like I said, remember they were already exporting 1 million through the Red Sea, so only 6 out of that 7 million is actually a net change. So that would put the deficit at 11. However, Iran is still exporting about 2.5 million barrels per day, so that takes the deficit down to 8.5. The UAE is exporting about 1.5 via their Gulf of Oman Fujairah port, so that brings deficit down to 7. And through a mixture of the Iraqi to Turkey pipeline, because of emergency circumstances, obviously, their disagreements have been put aside for the moment, and they're trying to maximize the amount that they're pumping out through that one, which is a few 100,000 barrels a day, and also through some internal in Persian Gulf UAE ports and largely Kuwaiti ones, and actually even a little bit trickle out from Iraq. Some stuff is actually also leaving the Gulf from the non-Iranian Gulf members now. The current rule is that it goes through and there are no attacks on it as long as it is going to and or coming from either Pakistan, India, or China, who then have done as I expected, or as assumably we all expected, and have begun actually, once those are out, diverting them to other countries that need it. But the amount that's going out like that is not a lot. It's about 1 million barrels per day, plus a few 100,000 through the pipeline up through Turkey. So vaguely somewhere between 5.5 and 6 million barrels per day for the full actual uh, deficit that is still ongoing, that is still being deprived. Plus also the uh, the 16 or 15 or so billion cubic feet per day of LNG exports from Qatar are obviously still completely cut off. So that is still a severe issue. But oil tankers going to or coming from Pakistan, India, or China are passing through the strait each way. But as expected, some of them are going towards their destinations, but are being diverted to, some of them are diverting to other countries, like two of the Chinese ones were diverted over to, one was diverted over to the Philippines, one was diverted over to Vietnam. So the actual deficit is down to about 1/3 of what it was at the start, but the situation could drastically change at any moment if any particular decisions and escalatory stuff are made. But we'll see how that goes, and I will drink some more water and check to see, do we have anybody? We got Josh. Do we have anyone else? We got Josh and 10 dead people. Okay. All right. So, as of current, Iran has launched a total of about 1,600 of their ballistic missiles since the start of everything, while vaguely more or less, but roughly around the area of 200 have been destroyed on the ground. A decent number of those were in some of the more recent strikes over the last week on some like staging areas when they were being brought out from the underground stuff and they were gathering for launches. In one particular area, I think it was near Isfahan, the guys like setting it up were not making the wisest decisions, and they kind of just gathered the launchers and stuff and were setting up like right in the middle of an airfield. And so when that was struck, that went up massively because it sent all of them up at once. And that's the one that looks like you saw the photos, I think I showed last stream, looked like a volcanic eruption from a distance. So just giant gray ash cloud looking thing, a mile wide on the horizon. A similar type situation happened again. So that's a total of roughly 1,800 of those that are gone. Only 200 of those, though, were like ones that were destroyed by uh, airstrikes. The other 1,600 are gone because they were launched successfully. and that is out of a assumed 2 to 3,000 roughly, although IDF intelligence suggested more like four. The US guess was like 2 to 3. So that's somewhere around, assume the four number, roughly half of the inventory. For the drone launches, they're around 45 or 4,600 that have been successfully launched, and a few hundred destroyed on the ground for a grand total of roughly 5K of the Shahed drones. In that case, though, that's 5K out of a vague estimate of somewhere between 30 and 70,000. So at minimum, they still have another 25,000 of the Shahed drones, although the number of launching mechanisms is limited. Granted, for the ballistic missiles, the specialized launch vehicles are way more limited than they are for the Shahed drones. But that is those particular numbers of standing at the moment. And after we said that we were not going to strike power plants and civilian infrastructure and everything, to the surprise of no one, the IDF instead said, okay, well, we're going to do that then. So they've started bombing steel mills, power plants now. Tehran was put in a blackout for a few hours, although there's more than one power plant around the vicinity of Tehran because, I mean, there's 12 million people in the metro area, so it takes more than one power plant normally. One of its major power plants was taken out, but I think there's like, of the big ones that that do like the main base load power, I think there's like 8 around the area. One of those was taken out, and enough rerouting and stuff was done to get around for the flow from the other 7 to compensate and get around the different damaged like substations and fallen lines and stuff. So that blackout is over, but one of the Tehran power plants is gone, which is not good for endearing yourself to the people that you're supposedly trying to liberate. And also, where was the other place? Shiraz, I believe, was the other one where a power plant got bombed by the IDF. Shiraz is a major city, so it does have more than one power plant. However, it does not have as many spare power plants lying around like a larger place like Tehran does. So not the wisest thing to be doing. And there is communication breakdown still ongoing and some bit of disconnect between Iranian like actual command and those individual crews launching the missiles and drones because uh, they're they're allowing vessels to and from Pakistan, India, and China. However, again today or last night, technically, some crew somewhere didn't get the memo and launched an attack at a Chinese oil tanker from Kuwait, but going to China, and thus is supposed to be allowed. But one of the crews didn't get the memo apparently and attacked it anyways. So, and now we have the supposed upcoming amphibious landings or air assaults along those areas and or these islands. And apparently these, because I guess Iran owns those. I thought they were the UAE's, but technically Iran has them, I guess. So those are in the equation too. And through bribery to Trump and family, they're probably, if they get seized, they're probably gonna get handed over to the UAE after the war, and no one's actually going to recognize it, obviously. But I can easily foresee like a fancy new jet or a gold shipment guaranteeing that, or there'll be one of those cases where like the U.S. is the only country in the world that recognizes such and such annexation or whatever. But we're in the tens of thousands of ground forces and associated assets now. We've got the 82nd Airborne there. We got the 101st. We got the, was it 5th, I think? The 5th, uh, yeah, because there's five, there are five specifically, and the 5th one is the one that's usually in Japan. Uh, the 5th Marines Expeditionary Force. We were flying in some more A-10s over the past few days, and apparently some additional Apaches have been getting folded up and loaded onto C5s and stuff and flown in. So that's kind of a ground assault indicator. So all that is ongoing, like prep wise. It may turn out to just be like threat posturing for the apparently ongoing negotiations that both sides, both the US and Iran, have said will take at least 2 to 4 weeks. And they said that at the end of last week, so half a week ago, which usually translates to a quote unquote gentleman's agreement was reached, to of each side agreeing to let's wait a little bit and fight it out for another month, because both sides assume they can get into a better position before, and thus want to do so before actually conceding anything. So one of those was apparently reached to drag it out for another month and see where it ends up. So most likely fighting through at least the end of April. But whether or not the landings stuff actually happens, I don't know. It would not really be the wisest thing to do. That depends what your definition of win is, or in reality, that depends on what the person who's doing stuff. That depends on what their definition of winning is. From if one assumes that uh, if one assumes that things are in reality being poked and prodded into happening by Pentagon decision makers, then from the Pentagon's perspective, uh, the Pentagon does not care about like what Netanyahu wants, like the Greater Israel stuff. But uh, from from Trump's perspective, if he was actually in control, his idea of winning would probably be like completely ousting the Iranian government and the people erecting like golden statues to him in honor for their freedom or something. As seen with Venezuela and as with U.S. practice in the past, with tolerance of brutalist regimes, as long as they played the role and agreed to whatever terms were demanded of them. From the Pentagon's perspective, even if Tehran remains a like Islamic uh, supreme ruler type government, but like stops close ties with Russia and and instead agrees to outside oil industries coming in to like revamp stuff up to like their old pre-revolution 6 million barrel per day plateau and etc. Uh, that would be acceptable from again from the Pentagon's like military strategic decision making because the actual like freeing the people of Iran thing is not an actual goal from their mindset. The the goal is to change Tehran one way or another to flip Iran from antagonistic to at least we'll say NC or NTC, I guess, neutral compliant, as opposed to antagonistic or non-compliant. The goal would be like with say Venezuela to at the very least flip it into neutral compliant, if not totally compliant. Now Venezuela, yeah, that was easy because we clearly were able to do the briefcase full of money deal with the vice president there. And, the government has not really changed. She was okay with all the black bagging and disappearing people stuff Maduro was doing. And she's probably still going to do it herself. But she immediately agreed to and conceded to all of the US's military and oil demands as soon as she was sworn into power. So again, as seen during like the various like dictators propped up by the CIA during the Cold War, the Pentagon does not actually care about uh, the actual the actual liberal democracy pro capitalism stuff. The concern is whether they support adversaries and or whether they allow full market dilution of resources, which Venezuela is a case where it was truly entirely just the petroleum because they are capable of 3 million barrels a day, if not five or six, but operating on their own with trickled in help allowed from time to time from Chevron, that was never going to happen. They'd only managed to drag themselves back up from collapsed production up to 1 million barrels per day over the course of the last like 6 or 7 years. So the patience wore out. And since Taiwan is coming up anyways, the Pentagon put them on the three bullet points of must be taken care of before XYZ happens list. And so similarly in Iran, if now the third round of recoalesced new government over the last few weeks because of the various rounds of decapitation strikes, if said new government or the next one, if this one gets decapitated by being bombed again, if any of the successive governments, regardless of whether they still want to remain like a Islamic fundamentalist government and still enforce all the hijab stuff, if they suddenly flip away from Russia and China and agree to concede to like the US's oil terms and stuff, then that from the Pentagon's perspective, again, from their strategic perspective, that would be considered a win because that's what they actually want at the end of the day. The assumption usually with a lot of regime changes, though, is that you're not going to get any portions of the prior government to ever actually concede. So the assumption is usually that you are going to have to actually fully wreck and tear everything down to the very foundation. in Venezuela was like a real lucky bribery fluke, that where whatever she was offered in that briefcase, apparently it was enough. 10, 10 million, 20 million, 1 billion, I don't know. It was clearly enough. Plus, a number of like the generals in Venezuela also had to have gotten bribed for that as well. But you get the point. Clearly, whatever they got offered, it was enough for them to accept it. Bribery and money wouldn't work in this case, obviously, but uh, allowing the Iranian government to continue its current existence as a fundamentalist, like religious law and order power stands a decent enough chance of working, as in the negotiations that were going on prior, they did actually already agree to allow outside oil industries to come in and start operating stuff. However, some of the other demands that were being placed were they considered non-agreeable. Like apart from no nukes, or sorry, I'm gonna draw big N. Apart from no nukes, the some of the demands were also you can't do any nuclear research at all, including like just regular nuclear power plants, and also uh, we wanted them. This demand was more Israel making this than it was us, but the again the present day U.S. governments, regardless of regime, whether it was Trump or Biden or now Trump again, they seem to have forgotten who is whose vassal state in the U.S. Israel relationship, and forgot that technically there's a leash the U.S. could pull on Israel since we supply a lot of their stuff. But one of the other demands that was almost certainly coming from Israel and not from us directly was that Iran could no longer have just regular missiles like cruise missiles or ballistic missiles, which, if you venture into telling a country that part of the deal is that you just can't have even conventional weapons at all, no one on earth is going to agree to that. Even if you offer them the $1 trillion briefcase bribe. So there is supposedly some ongoing conflicts behind the scenes about us and Israel are like at odds with each other right now because we're willing to let go of the no missiles at all policy part of the negotiations, but Israel really wants that to stay in, even though there would like that would be effectively unenforceable, except through eternal war, constant bombardment, which for all intents and purposes, the IDF probably kind of wants anyways. Netanyahu definitely wants it since he the court cases in Israel, for anyone who's forgotten, against him are kind of already effectively a sealed deal, and he would be going to prison for corruption. However, by the Israeli constitution, as long as the country is in a state of emergency, I'm going to put a big E, a state of emergency, then it is illegal to trial and imprison the president or the prime minister. So that's why, despite Gaza basically being done, he has not stopped and has kept doing stuff elsewhere all over the place, and was probably part of the reason why he was kind of eager to make sure the Iran war started up, because he wants to make sure that there is a perpetual reason to keep the state of emergency declared so that he gets to stay in power and never go to prison. Now the IDF is also like working towards their own like actual strategic goals in a lot of the stuff that they're doing, despite the fact that Netanyahu's reason for why he is very eager to keep all this ongoing uh, is, personal about not wanting to go to jail. But the IDF itself, like their generals and commanders, do also actually want to keep doing a lot of the stuff because they also have strategic goals that they're after. But his personal reason is just because he doesn't want to go to prison. And this was this is kind of the only real way, since he tried just straight up rigging the like the Supreme Court or whatever, or he tried getting a law passed to where the president, aka him, is just allowed to not not listen to like conviction orders or something. And somewhere near 2 million people out of Israel's population of only 10 million, 2 million people or 20% of the country's entire population came out on the streets and borderline rioted. So he kind of realized, and that was before the October 7 stuff. So he kind of realized that he was backed into a corner and he couldn't pull the actual "I am the law" switcheroo way to get out of going to prison. So internal war is the only other option left. Okay. Sorry you sent me on a long, long diatribe. Hey, Joe. Okay. Uh, yeah, you sent me on a long one, and it doesn't look like there's anybody else. Well, there are people. It's just only three people are alive. How long have I been going? About 36 minutes, 37 minutes. All right, that's close to when I would probably want to cut off. So I'm going to cut off soon. But, anyways, also, consequences continue to stack. If you got here late, again, you could scroll back along the timeline. There was various good news stuff at the beginning. There's one more bit actually I'll add in a few minutes. For people alive, but yeah, if you missed stuff, you can scroll back. So where I am at my parents' place near Charleston, South Carolina. Since for those unfamiliar with me, I am originally from Alaska, from Fairbanks, Alaska. However, when 2020 happened, uh, post 2020, I did not have my old job anymore and was not going to get it back. So I had moved down to the regular US with my parents, since I only had like 4 months worth of money in my bank account because I'm a normal person. So I would have ended up on the street. So I've been stranded in exile down here for 6 years. Around here, before the war started, gasoline was about $2.50. And as of today, when I got to see the signs when we went out to the store, it was $3.90. And if all things continue, should, for this area at least, be passing up over 4 before the end of the week, or maybe by the start of next week. And if the war continues for a number of months, fair chance, this will vary based on state and region, but fair chance that Americans will see between $6 and $8 for gasoline overall, just in general. All right, let me drink some water. Oh, yeah, the one other bit of good news uh, will actually end up being large scale good news is out in the Midwest. Research was ongoing among the in the field of biofuels, and we apparently research results of like 15 years worth of stuff just finally got compiled and released, and we were able to confirm switchgrass does work, in fact, and it beat my expectations. So, for those unaware, uh, there's various there's various means by which you can get or synthesize fuels, liquid fuel from plants and plastics. You can synthesize plastics as well. Plastic tends to get made from potatoes for bioplastic, but the the issue was always for one cost and for two energy net yield. Like how much does it take resource wise to grow the stuff versus how much energy you will get out of the liquid fuel. The US puts a lot of ethanol in its gasoline, corn ethanol from Iowa, and corn is horrible. Its net energy yield from the ethanol is between 1.1 and 1.6, whereas a a decent a decent fresh near surface high pressure good flow rate onshore oil field, like some of the ones that were discovered in recent years in Iraq, in the portions of Iraq that had been untouched. Some of those will have net energy yield anywhere from 50 to 200. Some of the offshore stuff, depending on the depth of the water and the flow rate, the type of geology, etc., can have energy yield rates anywhere from 20 to 60. Uh, shale shale oil fracking is usually roughly around 10 and averages between like 8 and 14 or so. Uh, heavier stuff like bitumen from the tar sands and everything is usually like 5 to 10. Same with Venezuelan oil and stuff. And then for biofuels, corn is corn-based ethanol fuel is 1.1 to 1.6. Now there's much better ones. There's like sugarcane ethanol down in Brazil, and getting it from sugarcane, you can get anywhere from 6 to 11. So you're getting up, back up into like heavy crude and shale yields. And now there's this, but sugarcane can only grow in tropical areas. And if we ever try to substitute the global liquid fuel supply, we'd have to remove the remaining rainforest on the face of the earth, which is something we really don't want to do because oxygen is nice. But there's something else that we were looking into that does not have to grow in a tropical climate, and in fact is one of those rugged plants that will grow on almost any surface you put it on, and that is switchgrass. Now, we initially it was looking not too good. Like I was kind of expecting it might have a yield of like 4 at best, but we found the right bacteria, we found the right conditions, and depending on the amount of energy you have to do to like pump the water through and stuff, based on whether it's like a decent rain year or whether you have to like actually pump irrigation through if it's in a drought. It has a wide range of initially it's looking like 7 to 13 and averaging 8 to 9 depending. So switchgrass actually works to my actual surprise, and that would be for light fuel production, aka gasoline. For the heavy stuff, for the heavy stuff like jet fuel and diesel, that has to come from algae. And there actually were decent algae yields that came out recently in some of those same studies as well, where they were actually able to push the algae yields up to between 5 and 9. So, in the absence of having a huge global supply of fossil hydrocarbon liquid fuel, we actually can viably maintain a liquid fuel supply. Now, there is also obviously other means, like we can quite literally liquefy coal to an extent. It doesn't have, it has a similar energy yields to the various biofuels and the worst types of crude oil, like heavy oil and stuff. But switchgrass actually works, and we were actually able to get higher net yields from the algae. So quite a number of things are uh, development-wise, scientific development-wise, are actually turning out to be going better than expected. Now, if we can, along with the other like good developments and stuff mentioned way back at the start, if we can start stacking enough of these all together, we might be able to like flip back over into that 90s slash pre-financial crisis, early that 90s slash early and mid 2000s like future optimism. Okay. Oh, now a bunch of people suddenly appeared. Uh, because solar is literally the worst option. You only actually get the energy capacity for about 4 hours out of the day when the sun is directly overhead. And also, the further north you go, the more of a low angle the sun is coming in at inherently, which lowers the yield. So, solar rating yield is actually only applicable to when the sun is coming in directly overhead, which is applicable to 4 hours of the day at the equator or within about 20 degrees of it. It drops the further north you go, and all throughout the day, you get these 4 hours and then these drops and troughs. So, to compensate for that, in this stupid solar dream world that I don't want people to keep up bringing, I'm sick and tired of having to do this over and over again. You would need battery capacity to supply the nighttime hours and the gaps in these 4 hours on either side. That capacity, plus accounting for differentials, maintenance off periods, rainy and cloudy days, and perpetual things of the like, you would need battery capacity in the dozens to hundreds of terawatts. And uh, that's not going to work. Also, there's not enough silver on Earth to build that many solar panels, anyways. They need a ridiculous amount of silver. And also, if you want to make the higher efficiency ones arguments, like there's ones that get 30% of the energy out of the sunlight instead of just 20. Yes, there are, but they do that via requiring very, very obscurely rare materials like germanium, which is already a supply issue as is, because it cannot keep pace with our demand for fiber optic cables. So I'm not going down this road again, people. Just stop. There are various other options. There are ways out of our global predicament. However, they're not the ways that we're choosing. No one is actually choosing the right ones. Stop being seesaw minded. Life is actually three-dimensional. All right, who else do we have? Uh, the that that depends. Once Lake Mead gets down to a certain point, on which it will in a couple years, unless it has a sudden rescue year like it did a few years ago, water use restrictions will have to be put in place in Las Vegas, which will then ruin everybody's image of the place pretty quick, uh, as they'll get hit with tourist issues even worse if they're suddenly told that, you know, when you visit Las Vegas, you better only take a 2 minute shower in your hotel room. That's gonna, dissuade a lot of people. All the stupid, fancy 900-foot tall fountains in front of a lot of those buildings are gonna have to be shut off. And so Las Vegas's economic situation will continue spiraling further. And it's been funny hearing a bunch of angry boomers who invested in Vegas now getting pissed at me, my fellow millennials, and now the 20-year-olds, the Zoomers, for refusing to go to Vegas to gamble away and lose what little money you old people have rigged the system into only letting us earn. That's kind of hilarious. Keep up the crying toddler stuff. It's funny to watch. Coal to liquids if we have to. 'Cause the thing is, no one wants to do it. It is more expensive, and it does have a lower yield. Plus, we are able to get what we need anyways. We have about 2/3 plus from our own supply, and then we get Canada. We get the combined bit from Colombia and Ecuador, Venezuela, Guyana, or half of Guyana. They're going to be splitting between us and Europe, and then a bit of gap plugging from Brazil. So there's not really like a need incentive that's actually going to push it at this point. Some others might do it for national security purposes, like China, for example, could easily do it. India might turn to it. They've haven't no one's had like reasons to go back to that before. Like the last time it was done by anybody on a mass scale was Germany during World War II, because once we bombed the oil fields in Romania, they were completely cut off from outside liquid fuel supply. So liquefying coal was the only thing they could resort to. Uh, Australia could do it if they have to, and they consume about 1.1 and produce, if you're generous and include like the natural gas liquid stuff, then they produce roughly like 300. So that's a total net imports of 800,000. Indonesia could. They have a lot of coal and they have a high demand now, way higher than their production level is. Philippines could if they want to. Let's see. I was not I was not aware South Africa still did that. Like I know some countries still have that operational. Like they had facilities that did it and did output like a constant supply, just really small, for the sake of being able to turn it up if necessary. I forgot South Africa had that. There are two facilities in the U.S. that do that, just at really small amounts. Like uh, I think like in total, like 20,000 barrels a day between the two of them, enough for the machinery to keep running and the facility to like stay up and going in case some kind of national emergency arises and ever needs to be switched over to. All right, that's going to be it, as we're almost at an hour, and I intended for this to be only 30 minutes. So that's going to be where we cut off this time. Let's see. I missed quite a number of videos this month. A lot of that had to do with me being a bit out of it, going to and from West Virginia a few times. I'll see what I can do about renormalizing things this month, but sorry, head on. But no guarantees. I'll see though. And let's see. I don't think I'm forgetting anything. Nothing that I can remember specifically, at least. Uh, yeah, all the good news stuff was covered. Got all the main points I was looking for, half of which I ended up going through just because of that one question early on that sent me off into like a 20-minute rambling. I don't think there's anything else, but even if there was, I'm done at this point. My brain's starting to opt out. So I'll maybe see you guys Thursday. It'll depend. Might end up being pushed to Friday. I don't know. And the monthly like data videos and stuff obviously depend on when different agencies actually release their data. Uh, the the electricity one is up. Excuse me. Click on the things I'm telling you to click on. The electricity one is up. That one dropped from the. I was actually getting decent view counts for the last few. Way actually way more than I normally get. The electricity one came in way less, uh, because no one seems to be interested in those. But that one's up there if you want to check out the electricity levels. And also, as always, for those unaware, you go down here under the PayPal and Patreon links. There's a free access drive link. Goes to this Google Drive folder. Here's the subfolders, and these have all the different graphs that you see and some that you probably haven't seen before. I maintain all this for free access, and sites and news organizations, everybody's starting to put stuff behind paywalls. So this is a way for everyone to maintain access to data and graphs and stuff for free. It doesn't look good because I only have access to Google Sheets, which is the free online, uh, basically cheap college student type version of Microsoft Excel. But that's all there for free. Anything through the super chats or PayPal, Patreon is technically also paying for this, though, in a way, because in terms of the amount of time I spend way more time making and adjusting graphs. than the amount of time I spend on streams or editing videos because I've got the video editing arts down to a pretty speedy process at this point since I've been doing it for so long. But actually, I have to switch these out now since I have the updated ones. So I'll switch these for the updated ones that are in the electricity video. But that's it. And I will see you guys next time. Ah. Uh, oh, I do have LibreOffice. I just haven't opened it yet because I've been lazy.